Today's true crime story is about two Indian sisters. When you heard about sisters, do not think this story is going to be about love, caring, or happiness. This story would break your heart. If you do not want to hear horrifying murder cases, you might want to skip this video. The crimes these two sisters committed were so horrifying that the Indian Court of Justice could not resist and sentenced them to hang till death. Refusing to accept the reality, they took this case to Mumbai High Court, hoping for a second chance. The High Court, however, upheld the original sentence, saying the punishment was well deserved. With just few options left, the sisters then appealed to Supreme Court of India, but once again, the Supreme Court stood firm, rejecting their plea. At this point of time, every court they approached turned them down, leaving them with one final option. In a final act of desperation, they wrote a heartfelt plea letter for former President of India, Pranab Mukherjee, begging for mercy. The response from the President office was devastating. No mercy would be granted. It seems that every chance for mercy had been firmly closed. But why? What had these two sisters done to deserve such a fate? Their crime was beyond imagination. They were convicted for murdering babies, innocent children as young as 6 months to 18 months. The horror about their story left everyone who heard about it deeply disturbed, ensuring that the law showed no mercy. These two sisters' names are Renuka and Seema. More precisely, Seema Kavid and Renuka Shinde. There is also one more person involved in these killings. In fact, she was the mastermind behind all of them. None other than the sisters' own mother. Shocking, right? This story doesn't start with Seema or Renuka, but instead from their mother, Anjana, also known as Anjana by Kavid. Right from her childhood, Anjana started involving in stealings and petty crimes. Her family assumed that she might stop this once after getting married, but she continued stealing people even after getting married. Because of this exact reason, lot of issues started to rise between Anjana and her husband. At this point, Anjana also started developing an extramarital affair with another man who was selling alcohol illegally in his own town. All of a sudden, Anjana left her husband and moved away to another town with her new boyfriend. Both decided to settle down in a place called Pune. This is where Anjana gave birth to her first child and named her Seema. Sadly, after the birth of Seema, her dad left her and Anjana alone. This led Anjana search for a new husband, and she eventually found a man whose name was Mohan. With Mohan, Anjana gets her second child and named her Renuka. Soon after her second child, even Mohan decides to leave Anjana. The only reason behind all these breakups is Anjana herself. Yes, true. Since Anjana could not leave her habit of stealing from people, whenever police arrested Anjana, they also took Mohan under custody. We all know how Indian police inquire criminals, right? After her breakup with Mohan, Anjana finds her newfound freedom, and she soon decides to teach her two daughters how to steal. The case we are about to discuss shook all of India and involved four main accused: Anjana, Seema, Renuka, and Renuka's husband Kiran. In this case, Kiran turned into an approver, so he did not receive a long jail sentence. Now let's see what was so brutal about this case. As mentioned before, Anjana taught her two daughters how to steal. Soon her daughters also became experts in robbery. Meanwhile, both of Anjana's daughters got married. Renuka's second husband was named Kiran. Since all four stayed in the same house, their regular main activity was robbery. They mainly targeted crowded spots in India, especially during festivals, at temples, metro stations and bus stations. Wherever there was crowd, Anjana's family would target the victims to steal from. Renuka already had a child from her first husband. One day, Renuka carried her baby and went to steal at a festival. On the same day, Renuka was caught by the crowd while stealing. Surprisingly, the crowd did not beat her or hand her over to the police. The reason behind this was that Renuka cried and pleaded, showing her baby and saying her baby was sick. She claimed that she stole just to buy some medicines and some milk. In fact, the crowd even gave her some money and sent her home. After this incident, Anjana's family got an idea. They thought that if they had babies with them while stealing, it would protect them from getting caught by the police and allow them to steal more easily in crowded places. But the problem was that Anjana's family had only Renuka's child at that time, so they soon decided to kidnap babies. Yes, they started kidnapping babies from almost every crowded place, targeting weak and innocent victims to steal the babies from. They kept these babies only as long as they were useful, and then, instead of leaving the babies on the street, they killed them by choking them until they died and then throw them in garbage cans. They usually had two criteria for killing the babies. Firstly, if the baby started growing and become difficult to carry, and also as people would feel pity only for newborn babies, they would kill the babies once it grew a bit. Secondly, if the baby cried a lot, which would raise suspicion among the people, they would immediately kill it if it cried for more than one day. According to the court documents, they kidnapped 13 babies and killed 9 of them using the same technique. Their first kidnapped baby was from Anjana's third husband, Mohan. Earlier in the story, we mentioned about Mohan, right? After Mohan left Anjana, he got married to another woman and had 2 babies. Out of those 2 babies, Mohan's first child was their first victim and Mohan's second child was their last victim. After kidnapping Mohan's second baby, Mohan and his wife grew suspicious on Anjana, which led them to file a case. Soon after, police arrested Anjana and her family. Only after this incident, the entire story came to light, as Renuka's husband Kiran quickly turned into approver and explained this complete horror story to the police. We cannot discuss all the 13 kidnappings in this video, but instead let's look into 2 incidents. Anjana's family traveled to a temple in Kuala Lumpur for stealing. As usual, Seema carried a baby for safety. While she was trying to pickpocket in a crowd, she got caught. As the crowd gathered, and fearing she might be beaten, Seema dropped the baby she was carrying to the floor, pretending it happened out of fear. The baby sustained severe head injuries and started bleeding. The crowd seeing this sent Seema and her baby to the nearby hospital. But however, after leaving the temple, Seema rejoined her family and did not go to the hospital because they hadn't finished their stealing job. Renuka told Seema to continue her stealing by getting into a crowded bus station. While the baby was still crying in pain, they carried on with their theft. Since the baby continued to cry for a long time, which raised suspicion among the people in the bus stop, Seema and Renuka decided to leave the area. Angry that they couldn't complete their theft, they took a large iron rod and struck the baby on the head, killing the baby instantly. They then washed their hands at a public water tap, threw the baby onto the streets, and left the area as if nothing had happened. Similarly, in another incident at a bus stop in Pune, they saw a woman begging on the streets with the baby. They approached her acting sympathetically and gave her some money asking her to buy milk. Once the woman left to buy milk, trusting these people with her baby, Anjana and her family took the baby and fled the scene. The baby cried the entire night due to being in an unfamiliar place, which alarmed the neighbors. Soon the neighbors began to question Anjana's family, asking whose baby it is and why is it not stop crying. Fearing that they would be caught if the baby continued to cry, so Anjana and her family decides to kill the baby by choking the baby until it died and dispose the body in nearby drainage system the next day. The main reason why they chose babies as their victim was because the babies can only cry and cannot talk, making it easier to avoid from getting caught. As mentioned before, all the 9 babies were killed in similar manner. As these people were caught, sentenced to prison waiting for inquiry, Anjana died in the prison due to sickness. Kiran turned into an approver, which resulted in less sentencing. On the other hand, Seema and Renuka were both sentenced to death. Although they showed no mercy when killing those babies, Now they are expecting Indian government to show pity on them and reduce their sentencing. As discussed in the introduction, all petitions filed to reduce their sentencing was cancelled by the court. The real fact of the case is that these people were arrested in 1999 and sentenced to death by 2001. In 2004, they appealed to High Court, which dismissed their appeal. The same happened in 2006 when they appealed to the Supreme Court, which upheld the High Court's decision. In 2014, Pranab Mukherjee rejected their mercy petition, and in 2016, they requested to delay the execution date. According to our research, these two sisters are still in prison even after 24 years, waiting for their final days. As we come to the end of this video, let's be extra cautious when carrying babies in public and crowded places. We might never know what might happen. Again, thanks a lot for watching this video. Until next time, Cristiano signing off.